Yakuza finger removal. Yakuza finger removal, also known as yubitsum, is a ritual performed to earn forgiveness after a member commits an offense against someone in the group. It involves amputating parts of one's own little finger to show sincere remorse and apology. This method is considered the least painful on this list, as it typically doesn't result in permanent or life-threatening damage, unlike the more brutal punishments that follow. Pitchcapping. Pitchcapping involves pouring hot tar or pitch into a paper cap and pressing it onto the victim's head. Once the pitch cools, the cap is violently removed, ripping away skin and scalp tissue. While not initially meant to kill, the extreme scarring and risk of infection often led to deadly consequences. Poena Cullei. In ancient Rome, those convicted of parricide, killing their father, faced Poena Cullei. The condemned was sewn inside a leather sack with a dog, snake, monkey, and chicken, then thrown into water to drown with the animals. It was one of Rome's most bizarre and symbolic executions. Bastinado. Bastinado is a form of torture where the victim is beaten on the soles of the feet using a rod, knotted cord, or lash. Unlike most forms of flogging, this method is designed to inflict pain rather than cause permanent injury. However, if done excessively, it can lead to severe damage, making walking impossible. Despite the pain, it is rarely fatal. Elephant's foot. Also known as gungar, this punishment originated in Asia, especially in India. It involved execution by elephant. In one version, the victim's head was placed on a pedestal and crushed instantly, a quick and relatively painless death. In the more gruesome version, elephants were trained to trample non-vital parts first, legs, arms, prolonging the agony before finally crushing the skull. Roman decimation. When a Roman military unit was guilty of serious offenses like cowardice or mutiny, they were subjected to decimation. A group of 480 soldiers would be divided into units of 10, and each unit would draw lots. The man with the shortest straw was executed by his 9 comrades, usually stoned, clubbed, or stabbed. Survivors were often exiled outside camp boundaries. The random nature meant guilt was irrelevant. Anyone could be chosen. Keelhauling. Used by sailors, keelhauling involved tying a person to ropes and dragging them beneath the ship, from one side to the other. Contact with the ship's barnacles caused deep gashes. If they survived, the process was repeated. Boiling alive. Victims were either dropped into already boiling liquids like oil or vinegar, or placed in cool liquid which was then slowly brought to a boil. Fingers, toes, and limbs would cook first, followed by liquefaction of internal fat and eventual organ failure. Sawing. The victim was suspended upside down to keep blood in the brain, prolonging consciousness. The executioner would then begin sawing the body vertically, from the groin upward, often continuing even after the person died. Spanish donkey. This torture involved the victim straddling a sharp triangular wooden board, like riding a horse. Weights were tied to the legs, increasing downward pressure until the body was split apart. Brazen bull. Brazen bull. A hollow brass statue shaped like a bull. The victim was locked inside, and a fire was lit underneath. As they burned alive, a sound system converted their screams into bull-like noises for the amusement of spectators. Blowing from a gun. This execution method involved tying the victim to the mouth of a cannon and firing it. A 19th century English soldier described the aftermath. The head shot 40 to 50 feet in the air, arms flew off sideways, and legs fell directly beneath the cannon. Though visually horrifying, it resulted in immediate death, sparing the victim from pain. Castor oil poop barrels. Victims were forced to drink large amounts of castor oil, inducing extreme diarrhea and abdominal pain. They were then confined in human-sized barrels and only removed upon confession. Some were left so long that they drowned in their own excrement if they refused to cooperate. Immurement. This punishment involved imprisoning or executing someone by enclosing them in a small space, like behind a wall. As an execution, the person was left to starve. As imprisonment, minimal food was sometimes provided to prolong suffering. The rack. Victims were tied to a rectangular frame and stretched by pulling their arms and legs in opposite directions. This caused excruciating pain, dislocated joints, and torn muscles. It was used mainly for extracting confessions, but sometimes led to death through blood loss or organ damage. Rat's cup. Emperor Nero allegedly employed this method. A metal cup filled with starving rats was tied to the victim's abdomen. Heat was applied to the cup, causing the rats to burrow into the victim's body to escape. A South American variation involved inserting live rats into the rectum through a tube. Choke Pear. A metal device was inserted into the victim's mouth or rectum, then expanded. It stretched soft tissues beyond natural limits, causing permanent internal damage and unbearable pain. Impalement. The condemned sat on a sharpened stake. By standing on their toes, they could avoid being pierced. But eventually, exhaustion caused them to slide down, slowly impaling themselves. A version known as the Judas chair involved being lowered onto a sharp pyramid until the body was destroyed. Bamboo through the rectum. A sharpened bamboo shoot was inserted into the rectum. As bamboo grows quickly, it would eventually emerge from the other side of the body, piercing vital organs along the way. Hanged, drawn, and quartered. Reserved for traitors in medieval England. The condemned was dragged to the execution site, partially hanged, disemboweled while alive, then beheaded. Finally, the body was cut into 4 parts and displayed around the kingdom as a warning. Catherine's wheel. The victim was bound to a large wooden wheel, and their limbs were broken with hammers or iron bars. The wheel was then displayed publicly, often while the victim was still alive and slowly dying of exposure or internal injuries. Aztec live heart removal. During human sacrifices to the Aztec sun god Huitzilopochtli, victims were laid on a stone slab. Priests used obsidian or flint blades to slice open the chest and tear out the still-beating heart, which was held aloft in honor of the deity. Heretic's fork. This was a metal collar fitted with 2 prongs, one pointing up beneath the chin and one pointing down at the chest. It forced the victim to keep their head upright. If they dropped it, the forks would stab into their neck and sternum. Used for sleep deprivation and interrogation. Tarring and feathering. Victims were stripped to the waist, then had hot tar poured or painted onto their skin, followed by a coating of feathers. It caused painful burns and public humiliation, turning the person into a spectacle that resembled a walking bird. Basil II's blind journey. After the Battle of Clydian, Byzantine Emperor Basil II captured 15,000 Bulgarian soldiers. He ordered 99 out of every 100 men to be blinded, leaving one in each group with a single eye to lead the others home. When Tsar Samuel of Bulgaria saw the mutilated soldiers, he reportedly died of a heart attack in horror. Glasstration. A horrifying method where a glass rod was inserted into a man's urethra and smashed, causing it to shatter inside and tear through delicate tissues with unimaginable pain.